we will call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight we are going to start by recognizing one of our Lyman Memorial High School students, Joshua Cady. Josh, thanks for being here this evening. So Josh is a commended student in the 2026 National Merit Scholarship Program. So there are 34,000 commended students throughout the nation that are being recognized for this exceptional academic promise. Commended students placed among the top 50,000 students who entered the 2026 competition by taking the 2024 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Those being commended have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success, and the students represent a valuable national resource, recognizing their accomplishments as well as their key role in their schools and what they play in terms of their academic development is vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nation. So this is a big deal. I wanted to make sure that we came before the board and recognized Josh. Josh, congratulations. Josh not only has this to celebrate, but he is a leader on the Bacon Academy Lyman Memorial football team. That's off to a great 3-1 start. So thanks for all you've done to represent Lyman in such a positive way, Josh. Mike has a little certificate for you if you wouldn't mind taking a picture so that we can share this with the rest of our community. Congratulations, Josh.
You had a better picture outside.
Yeah. All right, moving on to communicate. Oh, sorry, I don't want to skip over another very important part of our recognition. So it's a bittersweet moment. We have some Board of Ed members who have been with us for several years, and I want to make sure that they had an opportunity to speak their mind, if they'd like, about their time on the board. So if I'll start with Sarah.
Oh my gosh, you want me to speak my mind? So I would just say thank you for the opportunity to serve. I appreciate the community putting me in this position. I hope that I've done a good job. I feel like we're in such a better place. I'm so grateful for Andy, first and foremost, because I know the hard work, the dedication, the service that he puts in time out. This district is so lucky to have you, Andy, and it's been an honor to work with you. Same with Alexis. It's all of you, really. I've been side by side with you, so thank you for your work. Although we don't always agree, it always came to a very respectable decision, and I just really feel grateful to be able to be here with you for this long. I just wanted to kind of give a little pitch to, just making sure that our community is aware of the importance of this position as we come up on elections. I felt like I've taken this position in my own way, with my heart, like leading with my heart, but also leading with the kids in mind, first and foremost. What's in the best interest of these kids is, and I feel like that's kind of led my path, one direction or another. So I do hope that those that step into the role to replace us have that same goal in mind, what's in the best interest of the hearts and minds of our kiddos of Lebanon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. And I know that Alexis has also served for 8 years on the board. And to both of you, that's an extraordinary volunteerism at its best right there. 8 years, a lot of long nights, a lot of research and studying to be prepared for the meetings and to participate to all your subcommittees. So I'm truly grateful. I think I speak for so many in the community and really appreciated working alongside you as well. Dawn, I know that you've only been here a short time, but really thank you for your contributions as well. Kind of joining midstream is not easy. You were able to step in seamlessly and contribute to the board. There's a small token of appreciation.
Yes, should I open that now?
Yeah, you can. I did allow Sarah and Alexis to open up their gift prior to the meeting, but
Oh, I have to do it for everything.
now all eyes are on you. a little something
If there's
different.
money,
Alexis and Sarah, for those that didn't see,
That's beautiful.
they got a
Thank
little.
you.
You're welcome. They got
awesome.
a clock that thanks them for their time and effort and has the portrait of the graduate on it, and then Dawn had the apple.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
So thank you all for everything that you've done for our board and for our students and staff and our community.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
This is the last time that this board will be as it is right now. So for those who are finishing their terms, those who are continuing, thank you, because we all know that these are difficult seats to sit in, but the work is super important, so. I'm done.
Thank you. All right, now moving to communication. There's a letter of communication in your packet from Monica James. Monica has been our medical assistant at Lebanon Elementary School. She is resigning with her last day of work being Thursday, October 16th. She wanted to take the opportunity in her letter to thank the entire team for the valuable experience and the support during her time.
Moving on to public participation. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9011, we invite public participation. We have allotted a total of 30 minutes. Each community member is allowed 2 minutes. Is there any member of the community who would like to make a public comment? Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by Brian. Any discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimous. Student representatives report.
Hey, Austin.
Hi. So before I get into the paper that you all have, I wanted to briefly talk about nationals that are actually happening this month, going into November. We have a few students that are going to nationals for competitions and a few other students who aren't competing but are still going. It's from October 28th to November 1st. As well as this weekend we have Ren Fair parking for the class of 2027 and 2028. I will actually be doing that myself as a class officer. Nationals is just really good for all the kids. Like, I was supposed to go, but unfortunately I can't go. But it just really is good for students because, like, as said by my fellow classmates, it really gets kids, like, to group together. And, like, it's a good little way from home. And, like, especially with it being over Halloween, which isn't normal, but, you know, it happened this year. Like, it kind of gets kids to, like, still bond together. Now you have, like, a holiday. They bond together more. But getting into this packet that you all have, we had asked our fellow students about like how they felt about this like classes and courses they were taking in the phone policy. So kind of getting into the responses of like how scheduling was, we had 1 through 5, 1 being the like easiest, 5 being the most difficult. 2 is kind of like easier but like a little bit hard, and like 3 was obviously the middle, and 4 is being like between difficult and easy. Majority of students you can see had said 2. Following behind that was 3, and then 1, 4, and 5. I personally also had scheduling difficulties, and when you later can see why, but the next slide had also the next question we had asked is, do we wish they had more options for courses? Majority had said no, whereas like there were some that had said yes. When looking at the why they had wished they had more courses, they kind of had just basically talked about, summing it up, was that CP classes were abundant. There was a lack of availability for honors and AP classes. As well as they wish they just had more like specific field-oriented classes, and that ag classes kind of had taken up the availability to take certain like classes that were in earlier in the day or later. Then getting into like how they had like got to know their teachers and their staff, majority had said between 3 and 5. Again, that 1 to 5, 1 being like not really, 5 being more so. Majority of students obviously had said 4, as you can see. Then we asked how their class sizing went. Again, majority had like median. There was a little bit like second was 4. And then, so with the slide where you can just see, like, there's just the, did you get to know your first choice of English elective? I wanted to show that because there were a lot of, like, different responses, and I kind of wanted just to explain that quickly. All those little ones are just, like, kind of like yes or no, but some of the ones that I pulled from it were, like, I got my second choice because it wasn't possible to take my first choice without having to take a CP class. Got my first choice for reading, was stuck in CP, couldn't get into a reading class such as Myths and Legends, and that they had also got their options. The next slide was, did you get any classes you didn't choose? As you can see, majority, like more than half had said yes, which obviously sucks, but there was only 42.9% of students, and that was out of 56 students who had responded that had said no. And then we had asked about study halls. So majority students had about 1 or 2. Some had 2, some had 0. Some of the students had said pause, but I didn't put that in there because pause isn't a study hall. And then following that, we had asked them about if they had preferred an 8-period day rather than a 4-period rotating. And as you can see, 78.6% had said no. There were a little bit that had said yes, but majority you can see like they didn't really, either they didn't know or like they had explained that they had liked it. And then we'd also asked if they had been able to meet with their guidance counselors. Majority of students had said yes, some had said no, and there was one that said yes, but not by my choice. We asked them their favorite subject because, like, we want to know that, and like we want to know why they had like those classes. So some of the ones that I pulled from the responses were math, history, ag classes, science, gym, chemistry, art, and health. I added a little bit of a paragraph to kind of sum it up because there were a lot of paragraphs about these classes. Just kind of basically talking about how they had liked the environment the teachers provided. They had also liked how the teacher was teaching and just kind of like how hands-on it was. So like one that I really saw 3 times in a row was Miss Gergen's floral class. They liked how hands-on she was, liked how she taught, liked how she kind of made the environment safe, and that's just kind of a lot of things that we saw. Same thing with like history and math, just kind of the environment. And then the biggest one that we had was the phone policy. There were a lot of mixed opinions about this. They fell mostly between like agreeing with it and disagreeing with it. There were obviously some students who didn't have an opinion on it because they didn't know enough about it, or they just like kind of didn't care. But like what you could see throughout the responses that a lot of the students had just kind of overall thought the phone policy was just a safety hazard. They had, the way they had put it, like if there was an emergency, like they would need their phone to call someone, like they would not have that ability, as well as they had said that like it's overly strict and that they should be able, that students should be able to manage their phones responsibly in class. Some had also said they understand the policy and that it works easily because most teachers have the same thing, rules. And then like some other things I didn't put in there was students had talked about how like music helps them focus, and that how not having their phone and being able to listen to music kind of made it difficult to focus in class, and that they should be allowed to have it because they're not on it while their teacher is actually teaching, but when they're getting work done, and it's easier to get work done when listening to music. So those were just kind of the bigger ones that I pulled. There were, again, a lot. I just tried summing it up to the best I could.
Thanks, Austin.
Yeah.
The students that you polled, I know you're in the ASTE program, were they mostly ASTE program kids, or did you do like a mix of a whole different group?
A mix. Yeah, we did just a mix of everything. Like, obviously you're gonna get more responses of just like a mix of all of them, but yeah.
Well, Austin, you sent it out to, did everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody had an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sent out to all of the classes, so like class of 2027, 26, etc., like all of them. Some majority of them were done by, like, you could see, we didn't ask like their emails, but like you could see in the responses, like a lot of them were like freshmen and seniors, majority of them, but yeah, we had a good mix of all of them, mostly.
That's helpful information.
It's great stuff.
It's good.
Nice job.
Thanks, Austin.
I just have a comment that maybe to get more participation, could we maybe have just a thought to, if once they enter and they complete the survey, their name goes into a raffle or something to get more participation from all the classes. It could be something very small, it could be, I don't know, but I just think, I love this, and I think the student voice is so important that I would love to see this number like doubled or tripled in the next couple times we do this. This is just, I love this. But we should be able to find a way to track them and be able to get a little gift out there for participating and going to a raffle or something fun.
Well, high school kids love food, so
Yeah,
I think chips.
we could have fun with it. This is just fantastic.
Did you say how many participated? How many?
56.
56.
Thank you.
Reports of committees. Brian, policy.
We have not met this month.
Danelle, strategic plan curriculum.
We met this evening for an hour, and we plan to meet again or more about this topic. The topic was guidance and scheduling, officially called. Strategic plan spotlight student guidance and scheduling presentation. And so Superintendent Gonzalez met with the administrators and guidance and schedulers, and we talked about student and parental communication and guidance and participation. We talked about how to get people more involved in the process. We learned that people are setting goals starting in grade 5 through 8 and then continuing on 9 through 12 and trying to see where those goals are continuing through school systems to help them choose their classes, choose their after-school plans in life, etc., college planning, and also see how those goals can affect their, I say, class selection and scheduling in the future. We also had a quick communication about how schedules are put together, which is very complex, and we will be continuing the discussion in future meetings.
Any questions for Danelle? Okay. Rachel, finance.
We also met this evening for the 2025-26 budget. We will see an increase in the legal line item due to negotiations. We have one down and 2 more to go. Also, school tuition is increasing because of outplacements, and as we mentioned always, that is very fluid and something that can always change. We went over for the 2026-27 budget. The superintendent went over our timeline from now until the presentation to the Board of Finance in March. Dawn shared with us, there was a meeting of all 3 boards, the Board of Ed, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen. Everyone there was open to the dates that Dawn had recommended. She recommended pushing the date that they were requesting our operating budget. And we pushed that back to February 23rd, and this will allow us to have more accurate information to them. Because, as always, it's very fluid and always changing. We talked about a budget book. There was a budget book in the past. We just discussed thoughts of what we would like to see in a budget book, not as much detail as was needed in the past. More things. Everything is more, outlined or communicated via email and online than in paper. So we just discussed that, what we would like to see. That led to a discussion regarding thoughts of a possible new position in the business office and where the need would fall in the most. And as the budget season goes on, we will see if we're able to fill that or how that will. Early budget discussions, we talked about, again, back to
negotiations, that we have 2 more negotiations to go through, and we may not have those numbers in time for the budget, because it's actually not due until the end of this fiscal year. But the superintendent is going to try to move things along so we can get those in place. We're locked in for fuel, and was it electricity, fuel, and there's 2 things. I have to go back and look. We're definitely locked in for fuel. Insurance, we still do not know, and we probably won't know in time for the budget presentation, but we are expecting a very large increase. For the capital budget planning, we're working on laying out the plan as always for years 1 through 5, what we need and why. We're trying to outline the importance of getting the year 1 projects done, which we've had a difficult time doing funding. And then we talked about grants. Martha made a wonderful spreadsheet she created for all the grants, how they're used. Some are applied for every year, and sometimes an administrator may see an opportunity and reach out and put in the extra work to apply for that grant. It was recognized the work that goes into applying for all the grants, and that we're not just relying on town funding to fuel our budget, and that would probably be a good thing to outline in the presentation for the Board of Finance and the public. That's all.
Questions?
I just want to make a statement about that grant sheet. It was amazing. I looked at it, I'm like, wow, I didn't know all this. There was a lot of things here. I hear about them, but then like seeing it in print and writing, so whoever prepared that Martha, that was really good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Sarah, superintendent evaluation.
No report.
Dawn, safety and security.
No report.
Alexis, negotiations.
Negotiations, we did meet, our last meeting on October 8th. A long one, by the way. But we came up with a tentative agreement, so we are on the agenda for an executive session and an action item later.
Nicole, facilities.
Okay, facilities met this evening. First item on the agenda were catch basins. There are 3 catch basins, 2 at Lyman and 1 at LMS in immediate need of repair as they present a safety concern. The 2 at Lyman are estimated at $5,500 and $4,750. The one at LMS is estimated at $4,000. Buckeye will be asked to perform the service as they've done it in the past, and it would be recommended that it be done before the winter comes. Andy will use his capital funds as an emergency situation to pay for these 3 catch basins. Next on the agenda was air handler at LMS. It's in the Pass Academy band area. The cost will be $8,407 for a 10-day build and $8,987 for a 5-day build. We would ask for the 10-day build and use non-lapsing funds to pay for this project. An action item will be added to the agenda to move forward with this. Next was a door replacement at LMS. John secured some quotes. Roughly $2,300 for a hollow metal door and $2,800 for a wood door. These are interior doors. The goal is to begin to replace about 10 to 15 doors that do not function properly in the coming years, and there is 1 exterior door that needs to be repaired ASAP at LMS. And then finally, the welding pathway. There are 5 welding booths that have been created at Lyman with no cost to the district, thanks to investments by Electric Boat and UConn. The goal is for the booths to be functional sometime in 2026. Both the ASTI program and the construction program at Lyman will utilize the welding booths.
As Nicole said, we need to add an action item to the agenda. It is a regular meeting, so we do have the ability to amend the agenda. We need a motion in order to amend the agenda.
Motion to add an action item to the regular meeting agenda concerning the air handler at LMS.
Second.
That was LMS.
Lebanon Middle School.
Thank you.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by Sarah. Is there any discussion? Not about the action item, but just to amend the agenda. those in favor of amending the agenda, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Okay. So that will be action item number 3. Governance, the only thing I think we have is a reminder of Thursday's special town meeting, to vote Thursday. Did I say tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Glad we got that clarification. I would have shown up on Thursday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow the 15th, thank you. Thursday the 16th, something else must be going on. Okay, so tomorrow, the special town meeting to vote on the use of the 24-25 surplus. It includes projects from the Board of Education, Fire Department, Department of Public Works,
Cemetery Commission.
Cemetery Commission. So. Administrators report.
I think since tonight we have the fall data presentation, we
Okay.
could save their contributions for that.
Report of the superintendent.
Oh, perfect.
How about
Good
that?
report, like it was meant to be. So we are going to again share some data with you. We are focused and concentrated on doing what's best for the whole child here in our district, and we have some social emotional data and academic data that we want to share with you. Our instructional coaches have been instrumental in this presentation, as they have been in years past, working alongside our administrators to bring and celebrate some student successes that we've seen early on, to identify some trends that we've seen year over year, and identify also some action plans to move forward to continue to improve the learning for our students. So this presentation always starts with our Board of Education goal statement, which highlights that we take pride in maintaining high standards for all. Here we're talking about ourselves as administrative team, to our educators, and ultimately to our students. We know that's a great responsibility that we have in having these high standards for all, and it's something that we take pride in pursuing with regards to this goal. Our LPS 2030 goals will remain the same. They are rooted in continuous improvement, but we really focus this year on building and sustaining momentum. You're going to see that each building goal is a little bit different year over year as we look to refine our strategies in hopes to enhance that student learning and overall achievement. So we'll start with District Goal 1 at LES.
That's me.
That's you.
No, that's okay.
That's us.
All right, so their goal, LES will continue to foster a culture of student engagement and empowerment through active participation in their learning process. And so how we're going to do this is I'll just read their overall goals, and then the administrators will break it down a little bit deeper as to what that means.
Sure, so the action steps are really focusing in on that student engagement piece. And so we're going to do that through continuing with our goals of goal setting for the students. So students as young as kindergarten are setting goals for themselves, academic goals, behavioral goals. And we're also going to be focusing in on utilizing those peer observations, our shared planning times, to really focusing in on our strategy of student engagement. So continuing on with this year with this goal, but more of a laser focus for the student engagement pieces.
We're continuing with that thread of engagement. So here for the LMS, we're going to empower students to drive their own learning experiences while ensuring their diverse needs of learners are being met through cognitively engaging and well-differentiated instruction.
In terms of action steps, that first bullet really has to do with ownership, voice, and choice, which has been a theme for the last couple of years now, getting away from that sage on the stage, making our students more active participants in the learning process. Using AI to think more deeply about concepts, not necessarily more quickly, amplifying their curiosity, their ability to think critically, etc. Real world problems, deeper questioning strategies, Socratic seminars, fishbowls, gallery walks, those are the types of instructional strategies that we want to see when we walk into a classroom, that kind of personalize that learning experience. We talked a little bit in our subcommittee meeting about SSPs. Ironically enough, that's one of our goals here, to enhance that SSP process for students. Compare the past process to, there's a nice little outline that the state puts out for SSPs, and then has some discussions about whether or not that becomes part of a Student-led conferences becomes part of a portfolio, becomes part of grading that has to do with habits of mind. So those all fall into this category.
And finally, Lyman will improve practices to ensure that students are growing as learners. We'll grow programs that grow students as self-directed learners who set their goals. They monitor their own, take ownership of their learning, and of course, are relatable to college and career readiness.
So many of the bullet points here relate to priority areas that were established by NEASC. The first bullet point there, the student portfolio, that is something that NEASC is looking for when they come here in March. So that is beginning this year. Austin can probably talk a little bit about that herself because she's getting ready to do some of that. But students are basically selecting work and they're putting them into their portfolios, and as part of this, they're going to be talking to their teachers about why this represents an example of a certain portrait of a graduate pillar. So when you see the second bullet point, you know, the POG, that is something that all of our teachers are now looking at in terms of assignments that they're giving and how that assignment can be tied into a certain portrait of a graduate pillar. So that students will be able to upload them. They have to put so many in each quarter, and like I said, that's something new that we're starting this year. We have started back in the fall with, just making sure our teachers are aware of all the benefits and things that they can find in ION. Which is kind of like a data warehouse for us of everything that there is that we have for students. And one of the things you see there too, the MTSS, the multi-tiered system of supports, that is an ES priority area as well that we had to address and try and refine how we, how we better support our students. And we've done a lot of work with that over the last 2 years. Yes, do you want to talk about the last bullet point, the classroom visits?
Absolutely. We're incorporating learning walks this year through our PLC time. We're providing numerous field trips for students in their various classrooms to develop career interests and bring them out into the real world setting through various career opportunities.
And I heard the other part of this too, like we are using grants to pay for the bus transportation for that. So Perkins Grant is a great way to do that for a lot of the, the career and tech ed classes.
As we move into our district goal number 2 at LES, by analyzing current student performance data to identify areas of needs in the academics, behavior, and that social emotional learning, LES will continue to develop a comprehensive plan for tiered supports that include your universal tier 1, your targeted, and then your tier 3 interventions.
So with the laser focus for year 2, we are taking our MTS cycles, we're continuing with our MTS days, we're continuing utilizing our intervention team to be able to apply those targeted interventions, but also really focusing in on, with our new academic programs, those tier 2 interventions that are embedded in our instructional times. So we're receiving professional development about how to review those formative assessments and make those strategic groups. In addition, we'll continue with the social, emotional, and behavioral interventions that we have. We are starting with the DESA screening tomorrow, actually, with our teachers too. So we'll use that data to formulate those groups and interventions and measure that progress. And lastly, we will continue our family communication about those interventions, so we have that partnership along the way.
At LMS, to nurture a culture of curiosity and continuous improvement where both students and educators reflect, they take intellectual risks, they embrace their challenges as opportunities for their reflection, their critical thinking, and authentic problem solving.
am really excited about some of the action steps that we're taking this year with regard to this goal, because I feel like that really is kind of diving into the classrooms and taking a real closer look at what we're doing. In math, the whole staff has really started to embrace this idea of this building thinking classrooms approach, which is much more students-centered, getting the kids up and moving, collaborating on groups. There's so much more to it. It's a great initiative. I'm also really excited about SIBME, which is one of the software programs that we purchased with our AI pilot, which is focused specifically on teacher development and peer-to-peer observations of teachers. So for them to get the opportunity to look at each other's teachings, see best practices, offer feedback is going to really enhance learning. Google Classroom has a lot of great features that we've rolled out in the first 2 PD sessions that we had this year that really make looking at analytics, grade level data, classroom level data easier to do, and AI helps with that as well. So it's easier than ever for teachers to dive deeper into their data. And then specifically when it comes to feedback for things like student papers and what have you, AI does a great job of being able to provide timely feedback, which is super important with some of those assignments that maybe historically teachers take a long time to get back to students just because of the difficulty in grading them.
Lyman will value the input of staff and students in the process of school improvement, will provide staff and student opportunities to showcase their talents in a meaningful way.
So that first bullet, we've kind of talked about it with the first goal, but MTSS continuing to look at how we provide interventions and help students. And we've seen some growth in that area, from last year, and we're hoping for bigger gains there as well. You heard Sue talk about the learning walks, but the revised curriculum in a common format, that was something that we had a meeting with NES people about, and they've actually kind of relaxed some of their rules on the common format, just because they said certain classes, like your AP classes, demand their curriculum be a certain way. So rather than rewrite things twice, they're allowing a little bit of leniency in the curriculum area. In terms of students as active learners, one of the things that we're seeing in a lot of our goal meetings are teachers picking goals that relate to domain 3 of the CCT, which is getting students to be more active participants in their learning, and many teachers are working on doing that. And it's funny, you talk about the self-reflection. Just talking today to a teacher about how they can have the students reflect on their work as part of helping them meet their goal. But the self-reflection piece is actually huge in terms of the portfolio, because all students have to reflect on why the piece that they're submitting for their portfolio fits that particular pillar. And exploring career pathways, we're working, as you heard, with EB trying to get that welding. We're not working, we're there now, and now it's trying to actually assemble the units. But EB is actually coming out to present to our students at the end of this month. And we're going out, we're reaching out to Collins and Jewell for another tour of their facility, and possibly a demonstration of some of the things that we're going to be asking our students to do in a very short time.
We're continuing to revise our biology units. Jay and I are up there continuously in and out of those classrooms. We're modeling it's grounded in the phenomena and student questions aligned with NGSS. It's really student-centered, and this is what Austin was talking about in her survey. The students are doing the work. It's active, it's kind of loud, but it's exciting to watch. The next one is the Student Improvement Committee, where staff and student input, and this is what you were talking about. Our student council has combined with our peer support group,
We have over 23 students together as our student council, and this is, I think, our best pep rally so far has been our first. It's uplifting and it combines with our next one, and we are absolutely growing opportunities to hear that student voice and celebrate success like our attendance and other achievements you saw tonight with Josh here and those types of things. So we're excited and looking forward to a very successful year here at Lyman.
And finally, our district goal number 3 for LES, to expand the efforts to improve student attendance by using the multi-tiered systems and PSS framework to address the attendance behaviors, to promote the positive school climate, and foster the social emotional well-being.
So we have had great successes with reducing our chronic absenteeism along the way, and we want to continue that work too, because we want to make sure that our students are in the school and that they feel welcome and it's an inclusive environment for all. So with that, we partner with everyone in the school. We partner with our families. We have constant communication about the importance of attendance, being in school every day that you can when you're well enough to be here, starting from the age of 3 and on. So we'll continue that work and really assess those barriers to coming to school and help families that need those supports. But also, every person in the building has a part with being a part of promoting attendance. So at our meetings, it's going to be a common place to talk about how our students are doing at a PPT or a 504 or our conferences, how they're doing with their attendance too. And again, celebrating too when students make improvements with their attendance. And we'll be continuing to focus in, I talked a little bit about that MTS, those MTS cycles that help us promote climate and culture as well. So we'll be continuing that work.
At LMS, to foster school culture where all students are equipped with the tools necessary to develop the resilience, the persistence, and the ownership of their learning by ensuring equitable access to higher instruction, inclusive supports, and opportunities to overcome the academic and social emotional challenges.
So I think I had mentioned at a previous meeting, or at least alluded to the fact that this is the district action steps that we've tweaked a little bit to try to focus a little bit more on the resilience and grit component, but we still have some other things that kind of left over from the past too. Increasing parent engagement, for example, the climate meeting that we held as part of open house. We'll have another one in March, but we'll do some other things to improve parent engagement as well. Giving some students more voice. We recently revamped how we're rolling out student council and using that as an opportunity for to kind of go back to the grassroots of more of like that student government type opportunity for kids, where they have some choice. One of the things that they're going to bring back shortly is a school store, so they'll have some input into how that runs and what goes into it, and that's hopefully just the beginning of some opportunities for them to have some say in what goes into the school. We mentioned intelligent tutoring systems. So we're looking to, again, kind of down the technology route to utilize WIN as much as possible for some of our students that either need extra support on top of what they're already getting in our tiered interventions, or on the flip side of that, students who are looking for enrichment opportunities through programs like Kira, Otis, or just two that we're exploring, things like Khan Academy, or Khan Mingo, really. It mentions on here IEPs that reflect inclusion. So obviously in the last year plus, we've modeled our special education initiatives so that the students are embedded within the classrooms. But one of the hang-ups that we've noticed is that a lot of our IEPs are still, the goals on those IEPs are still written in a manner that would reflect the resource environment. So we need to take a closer look at them and rewrite them so that some of these goals align with what's going on in the classroom as well. But that takes training on both behalf of our special education case managers and our gen ed teachers as well. And then, scales, our scales classroom continues to be something that we want to evolve. Really, really happy with the performance of our new teacher in the scales classroom. She's really willing to take a critical lens to it. We want to come up with just a scaffolded plan for anything that could happen, right? So, I mean, tomorrow a student with significant needs could come into our district, and that scales program is what we have there to support them. And so that means that we need to have at least a rough draft in place for every student who could possibly walk into our school.
And finally, Lyman values the roles that all stakeholders play in creating an environment where students can grow and feel safe and prepared for their future. And to that end, we provide connections to colleges and partnerships, industry, businesses that support the student career interests.
Our first bullet is to increase communications with parents, community, and our sending towns. This is always a goal for us. Tonight we had some really good suggestions, and we'll continue to move forward with those suggestions. The second bullet there is we do go out and present at open houses. Last week I was in Sales. A couple weeks before that you were in Franklin, and next week we're at 2 surrounding town elementary schools, and we'll continue to do that. In addition, we're going to go and talk with Chad to see if we can get into the 7th and 8th grade here in Lebanon, and reach out to those parents as well, just so that they know what we have to offer here at Lebanon.
So the whole pathways piece, you've heard a lot about how we're trying to develop pathways for students to keep students here, but also that are based on things that they're interested in. Again, last year when we brought in, Electric Boat, there were probably 30 kids here in this library listening to them. And I envision the same thing this year when we do that. One of the things they talked to kids, didn't have to, they focused a lot on the juniors for the internship program, but they did speak to our seniors about how they could, if they were planning on going to college, what they could do that would get them into EB afterwards. So we're really happy with all that Electric Boat has done with us, including helping us get the welders when we were struggling to find that money to be able to do that. And for guests to visit classrooms, we were having discussions even in our goal meetings about how we can bring in people from industry that relate to the different classrooms. Bring in somebody from Pfizer into a chemistry class. Bring in somebody from banking into our personal finance classes. Bring in somebody from Johnson & Wales to talk to our students in a culinary class. So we're looking to try and bring more people in to spark interest in the things that we do here and the opportunities that kids can use taking classes at Lyman that'll transition them to outside.
All right, awesome. So we're going to transition now from goals into starting to look a little bit more at student data and achievement and what our action plan will be from that information.
Yeah, so hopefully, all those steps that we saw, our hope is that with all those things you saw, that it encompasses the whole child. Of course, these are just one data point, right? This is one day shot in the life of a student or a grade level. Definitely some areas that we want to celebrate, but some focus areas that when they get to their part, they'll target a little bit more. So I'm just going to you've got the presentation in advance. Definitely ask any questions if you'd like, but I'll just kind of breeze through this a little bit quicker. The state always wants to show what students made proficient or above. That's that 3 or 4 on SBAC, the test that's given 3 through 8th graders. As you can see, we continue to be above the state average, which is nice to see in every grade. Some highlights this year are 3rd grades, who are now current 4th graders, right? We've got some kids that are in 4th grade currently that are one of the highest percentages that we've seen. Some other areas that 6th grade, which has always been a grade in the past that has been our most concern, continues to thrive. And a lot of that's alluded to their teamwork and really on board in improving their scores. Some areas that we want to target, and you'll see that in the building presentations, is certainly our 4th and 5th graders. Noting that if you think back to COVID, those are your preschoolers and your kindergartners. So we are seeing that impact still many years after with those particular 2 groups. Finally, as a district, this is the highest in math that we have seen across the last 4 years compared to the state. So we are pleased. So even though you can see some grades might not have done, and you'll see in the next slide the cohorts, as a district, when we encompass everybody, we are the best we've been yet. This has always been a request from the board and something we've continued to keep in the slides. It's the next slide shows across many years, which I like a little bit better, but this is a comparison from just, if you follow the yellow to the yellow, right, those are the same cohorts. So you can see just only grades the 5 to the 6 has shown an increase. We continue to be above grade level again there, and you do see improvements like vertically, right, but then as you go across. So, but when you see the next slide, you can follow these, the class, for example, you can see that if we continue to go well, in particular our lower classes of 20, 32, the hope is that it's going to continue to go up, and you can see that typical trend happening there.
And if I could just add to this for the board as you look at this visual, you can see that if you focus on the green band in particular, so that's the proficient band, you see that you need to score higher year over year to get into that band. So there can still be growth for students that might not result in that particular band increasing in percentage. So I don't want you to look at that cohort analysis and think that our kids aren't growing, because it is more difficult year over year to get to that particular band that the state is reporting out.
Another way that the state looks at SBAC is targeted, which is that is the target that they have from the previous years. So when you see, that 80%, even though our 5th grade scores might not have been as great in the 3 or 4 proficient, there was 80% of those students did achieve their target growth. So we want to look in iReady diagnostics. That's something why we believe in that. It does help you determine, like when they just did the fall diagnostic, we were able to look at what kids could potentially make goal and what we have to do to achieve that. And so teachers have really explicit skills for that, as well as our interventionists. Here we did go up from the previous years in the growth. The highest was in right after that COVID, which was kind of weird, but you can see now we're going back up. So that's the trend we want to see in our growth as well. And then finally in ELA, we continue to do well in this area as well. Of course, above our state averages in all the grades again. We see our 3rd graders knocking it out of the park again. So that's going to be a cohort we're going to watch very closely.
Rita, if I could jump in, that was something that Rita and I talked about too, and we've brought to the board's attention, as we've introduced new programs into the elementary school, we're looking to see and monitoring what are those results going to look like. So this is good to see that our 3rd grade class has come in with such elevated test scores. Now, could it be that particular cohort? We'll see. We're hoping that, the 3rd graders that are coming behind them, having yet even another year of that new instruction and the new programming will demonstrate similar levels of proficiency.
Again, in our ELA district-wide, our proficiency is the highest that it's also been since the last few years, and well above the state average as well. Again, this is that cohort view, a little bit better in this subject than in math. But again, if you go to the next, again, still above the state average, and you can follow those trends as well. And then finally, that achieved target percentage. Again, those numbers in that 5th and 6th, are high in regards to achieving. And then looking closely at our 4th graders who are now in 5th. And then finally, again, a little bit all over the place here, still above the state average in our growth, lower than last year, but higher than the previous 2 years. So hopefully with our new program that we've implemented K through 5, we'll continue to see growth in that as it's in the basis of the science of reading.
So I'll start us off with some of the iReady data, and remember the diagnostic 2 is given 3 times a year. So this time of the year, it's really our starting line. It's where all of our students begin at this start of this grade 2. So when we're looking closely at this, we do see some a strong performance in grade 3, 2, coming in with that 54% for ELA. And then we do see a shift over in math too, with some of those lower scores for math. So targeting in math, we're really focusing in on those tier 1 instructional practices and that iReady classroom mathematics implementation with fidelity of that program. So a big focus on that. With both of the programs too, we are talking about the small group interventions, which I alluded to before. So those small group interventions that are part of that class time, part of that tier 1, are a regular practice, practice in our school. So we want to make sure that we see that throughout the week.
And this is our universal screener, one of the state mandated ones that we use, that we screen our kindergarten through 3rd graders 3 times a year. It's called M-Class Dibbles, and these are all of the different assessments that the students take. Just some highlights in kindergarten, that phoneme segmentation. Phonemic awareness is really a foundation for our youngest readers, so the fact that almost half of our kindergarten students already have that is amazing. That huge shout out to our preschool teachers who are using our phonemic awareness integrity program and just making sure that our kindergartners are coming in with a solid foundation. Everything's pretty typical. You can see that in 2nd grade, the beginning of the year is usually focusing on that application to passage reading, which is the oral reading fluency. Our scores are slightly higher than they were last year, so we're also tracking that data. This is our 3rd year with M-Class, and we can see the trends from year 1 and so forth, which is nice to have access to that.
So these are our next steps going forward.
So we are continuing to focus on our phonics instruction. We are in year 2 of magnetic reading foundations. This year, the focus is really, because we're getting used to that pacing, getting to the connected text portion of that program and implementing small groups. Year 1 of new programs is very hard to get in the small groups, so that's really our focus for phonics, reading, and math this year. We are in year 2 already of MyView Literacy. We saw great progress throughout last year, so again, we're going to focus on differentiation through small group instruction, not just during like our WIN tier 2 intervention time, but on days during the tier 1 instruction as well. Classroom teachers will continue to provide tier 2 intervention with fidelity. We've already had one professional development workshop with our SAVIS consultant, walking us through all of the amazing resources that SAVIS has for small group instruction. And we will continue with learning walks for math and literacy throughout our building, with some debriefing and feedback time after, so teachers can hear all of the great things that they are doing and any next steps that we can work on to help our students be the most successful that they can.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll just finish up real quickly with our next step. So tier 1 for all, that's really concentrating that all students are in our tier 1 math and ELA times. So that's looking critically, and sometimes it can be very hard to make sure that we're looking critically at schedules to make sure that all students are in for that important instructional foundational time too. We shared that we're continuing with our professional learning with our programs too, and working closely with the consultants too, which our teachers have formed relationships with too along the way. We have a focus on continuing with all of our instructional practices throughout the grade, but particularly in 4th grade, we wanted those students performed very well in the Smarter Balance, so we want to continue that momentum and continue to make sure that those instructional routines are strong with our programs too. Collective efficacy is really focusing in on that we all believe that we can make change too. So we're going to have those shared planning times too. We're going to have those peer observation times in which we can focus on how we can achieve student performance and increased student engagement. We'll continue on with our coaching cycles, and then play-based learning, another way that we encourage student achievement. Play-based learning is really infusing those ELA standards in play too, so we'll continue with that work this year.
All right, so here we have our iReady data at LMS. We put it in the two different views that iReady provides, which in the parentheses is what they call the beginning of year view. So that's the expectation of where they will be, while we'll shoot for that and then some. But as you can see, this is merely a baseline, but to look at as a school being in the 40% already is something definitely to celebrate. Our next steps, we tried to kind of generalize them into the bigger buckets. Our first big push is to continually use myself as a coach, our math specialist, and our tutors to deliver the interventions during MTSS and WIN. We've structured our interventions and testing this year to be more from September to June rather than being later in October to finishing in April. So then students have way more time without testing. They have that, you know, that time to recuperate, but also for us to provide interventions throughout the entire year. Looking at Tier 1, our general education classrooms, ensuring that in this second year of the inclusion model, we are using evidence-based practices, looking at co-teaching more deeply with our special education teachers. And as Chad had mentioned, the tool AI called SIBME has been really cool to see, and for teachers to see their peers and how certain things and practices look in different rooms. And that's really been insightful and will be in our PLCs. And going off of that with math, the building thinking classroom practice, our grade 6 teacher, that's one thing that I know we've spoke about a little bit here, but she really came in with that concept and that strategy, and we've really driven right into, you know, what it stands for, and to see that our students have, you know, such an involvement when it comes to them building their learning. And so in math, we're seeing those gains due to that practice. And then as well as our implementation of SAVIS, as was said, from K4 is now K5. And we've definitely, you know, seen some good engagement with that program.
And then just to kind of piggyback off of her in terms of some like remaining questions, if you will. One is that I'm particularly interested in is the special education data specifically in terms of the SBAC results from last year. We can tease that out a little bit, but you're not going to be able to get all of the data in that what they term as like the high needs population, because that also includes students who receive free and reduced lunch. So we're really waiting for the for that performance profile data to come out from the state before we can take a really close look at it. But you know, we do have a very high percentage of special education students, especially in our lower grades at LMS, fifth grade and sixth grade in particular. And so it's important to tease out that data and see what that has looked like historically and what it looked like in this after year one of this inclusion initiative as well. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm also curious to see how our iReady scores vary with this switch. Again, she alluded to the fact that historically iReady for us has been right at the beginning of the year, and then again in March, and then again in literally like the last week of school when the kids are just dying in the heat. So now we're moving it to the same model as elementary school, where the beginning in December and then March, kids will get a little breather before they finish with SBAC, you know, right after April break. So good, bad, or indifferent, it'll be curious and interesting to see what that data looks like in this new format.
And finally, our last state mandated test is our NGSS, our science assessments. Again, we continue, those are only offered in 5th, right, 8th and 11th. And we continue to be above the state average in those grades. And as a district, you can see that we're back to our original of the 2022 year. So we're definitely headed in the right trend. And LMHS, we'll just talk a little bit, and that'll be the last slide.
So one of the things where really making a focused effort this year is to make sure that we're doing these interim assessments in all of our science classes, freshman, sophomore, and junior, even though junior year is when you take the NGSS assessment. So we're just trying to make sure that we prepare our kids and give our kids an idea of what they should expect to see on those tests. You know, the portfolio, again, you know, you've heard me talk, you know, probably ad, you know, nauseum about that, but we think it will really help with, you know, tying, showing students assessments that are of importance and relate to those Portrait of a Graduate pillars. And, you know, teachers are making a focused effort on trying to identify what ones students should be looking at. Again, I know it's talking about NGSS, but, you know, all teachers, science and all teachers are doing this. The student-centered activities, the best, you know, example we can show that is how we're trying to reform and revamp our biology classes with that new curriculum to try and make it more student-centered and more hands-on for students. You know, we've talked about ION and, you know, the professional development. All of our teachers are in, you know, they're at different places in terms of embracing AI, but even some of our most reluctant teachers, you know, having a discussion with somebody today about how they were using it in their class to, you know, help students see things from maybe a different perspective. You know, we are trying to, you know, work on our pathway, you know, especially the CNA one, to try and get more opportunities for students with, you know, in the medical field. And that does play into science in a big way, trying to get students, you know, taking the classes that they need, especially to, you know, make sure that they can meet those requirements of the CNA class. You know, the learning walks, it's something that we're starting during our PLCs, but it is part of a larger district initiative to try and get teachers into classrooms. And student voice and perspectives, you know, it's something we're really focusing on to try and not only, you know, figure out like classes that they may think that would benefit them, but also looking at what we're doing and how we can help students be more successful.
So thank you, first and foremost, to all the presenters. You always put together such a comprehensive and detailed slideshow. I appreciate your time. And thank you to the board. I know that no matter how hard we work as a team to make things concise and share things with you ahead of time, it's really hard to be able to share an entire year's action plan for a district in less than a half an hour. So we do our best, but we are truly appreciative that this board is interested and reviews them and provides feedback and is also pushing us to look for those areas of growth and provide the action plans. You know, as I sit back and I review this, there's definitely pockets of excellence in our district in terms of student achievement. Really proud of what our teachers are doing to promote different styles of learning and to infuse different technology platforms. But we still have areas of growth. One thing I'll try to bring back and highlight again, there were several different slides that demonstrated that our student performance has been the highest it's been in the last 4 years. So I think that at the very beginning I talked about trying to build momentum. I think it's been built. I think we've built that momentum, and a challenge that we have as administrators and as teachers is sustaining that momentum and continuing to want to improve, not being satisfied. And I'm confident with this team here, we'll continue to see really good results. So thank you everybody who presented, and to the board, thanks for providing this platform. Appreciate it. Any questions that I can take away and bring back? I know again you have this from a previous weekly update. You've had a second opportunity to listen. If you have any questions, I can field them now, or if there's anything you want to suggest in the future, you can feel free to share with me another time too. All right. Moving on to the class size report. So this is a presentation that was done a little bit differently. This was like a flipped classroom approach for Board of Education. So this information was given to you because it is a lot to digest. And I'd love to open it up for a little bit more of a conversation. I know that we have the philosophy that we want to maintain a reasonable class size, and we have fought together year over year for smaller class sizes in our district. As I've communicated before, I do feel that we are fortunate in Lebanon to have the class sizes that we have, and it really does promote personalized learning, but I do also understand that we have to balance budgets, and that can lead to some difficult decisions. So I'm curious to know how you're all feeling after reviewing the class size report that was shared with you in your weekly update.
I think that the student report probably speaks the most to me, especially when she was asking questions about, did you get the class that you wanted? Do you have a lot of choices? And to hear students say no, that they don't have the classes that they want, I almost feel like maybe the board is doing a disservice to them, because we argue so much about class sizes, and we get on the class sizes that are like below 5, not really understanding that those are specialized classes. Like, those are classes that you might need prerequisites for, that only come up once in a great while. And for kids still to be struggling with taking the classes that they want because we're constantly saying, well, you gotta have 20 in a class. I feel like that this is a stronger argument, because we need to provide as much opportunities as possible for these kids to have classes that they want, even if there's 5 in a class. To me, that doesn't matter, because to them, that class matters, and they get a lot of education out of that, which leads to what they want to do in life. So, I think the argument of small class sizes doesn't hold weight to me at all, because I feel like smaller class sizes, you get more bang for your buck.
Okay. Anyone else?
I don't think they didn't get the class because of the size. I think they got it because it didn't work in the schedule.
I think there's a lot of different reasons why. It's not just the only
I don't think
reason.
there's any class that didn't run. Am I wrong to say that? There's some very large classes and some very small classes, but I think
Those that didn't run because it was too small or
Yeah.
too big. Jay and Sue, do you know of courses that didn't run in particular because their enrollment was too low or too high?
Yeah, I mean, the kinesiology class that we had presented to us last year, we only had, I think, 2 or 3 kids sign up for that class, so it didn't run this year.
In our CNA program?
CNA,
Yeah.
and, what was one I was just thinking of one that I.
So there've been a
There's
couple.
yeah.
There's a few.
Oh, the African American and Latino Studies class that hasn't run. We have it on the books and it's offered, but it hasn't run.
so. I think there's more than just a size problem. It's a scheduling problem, which you couldn't fit it in, so the kid didn't get it. Like, I know from my daughter's situation, she couldn't get the class she wanted. That's all she meant. It wasn't that it didn't run. It was the schedule didn't work out, therefore she couldn't take it. So it's not just a size issue. It's just a matter of juggling all the sections and all the teachers and all their commitments.
Right, well, that's my point, though. There's a multiple amount of different reasons why these kids are not getting the classes they want. It's not just scheduling, it's not just class size. There's a lot of different reasons.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, Brian.
There is a fine line to me between, and I understand what you're saying, Nicole. But there's a very fine line to me between, just as an example, I only wrote down a couple that's kind of stuck out. So ceramics 2, in first half of the year there was 4, second half of the year there was 21. So to me, that's just a huge number that, how do we smooth? How do we work that out to smooth those numbers, to not have 4 in one semester and 21 in another, just as one example? And then, you know, there's, I don't know, Heroes and Monsters, for example, had 6 folks in it, had 6 students in it. And I didn't write down what semester it was, maybe it was only 1. But anyway, my point is that, you know, I think it's great that we offer this stuff, but if there's not enough interest in it, and we've got to, I think, define what interest means, particularly in a time, you know, stuff's getting tighter on us. The you know, budget is more constrained every year, and it's not going to be a new problem. It's going to be a continued issue. So I think we've got to come to some sort of a consensus. Yes, we want smaller class sizes. Sure, we don't want, you know, 28 and 30. We all, you know, agree on that. But I don't know that we want 4 either, or 6. And there may be a reason that those, that we have that certain number in those certain classes. But I'm thinking that in many cases that should be an exception. I mean, we've got to be able to prove that, you know, we're utilizing our resources wisely too. And I don't know if that, again, if it's, I'm just thinking about it from a scheduling perspective, but there are a lot of other considerations. But just from a, you know, scheduling perspective, how do we get AI? How do we use software to help us with that, or with the smoothing, so we don't have such peaks and valleys from semester to semester? Or maybe we decide that, you know, a particular class, we may only run it one of those semesters because of what we're looking at for the whole year. So anyway, thanks.
I understand what you're saying. Can you help me? I think I read this a little bit differently. So for example, Ceramics 1 and Ceramics 2, I read that in semester 1 as a joint class.
They are.
There are
It is a joint
26
class.
students.
There's
not
26 kids in that class.
4 and then 21. In the second semester, there is 42 because there is 21 and 21, but they're in the same class. It's not 2 separate classes that are running.
Oh, so maybe I misunderstood that.
That's what I want to make sure we actually understand what we are reading before we try to make any sort of.
That's why I tried to put those smaller numbers next to it, just so people know that there's actually 26 in that class. And, you know, even going down further in like the AP classes, period 4, 7, 1, they're all together in that class. There's 12 all together in that class.
Appreciate and my apologies for misreading it.
Misunderstood it too.
So anyway, my couple of other points still stand though. I would like to see us find a way to smooth. We've got to be able to weigh, and if for no other reason for our educators, you know, it's important to them, in my opinion, that we give them a consistent class size. And then number 2, again, if we've got to decide what's acceptable as far as small, that we're not maybe going to run it both semesters, we're going to only run it one semester, whatever. Because we've got to, as much as, you know, we'd like to, there are fiscal constraints in this too, and, or at least considerations. So, thank you. And thanks for clarifying.
They weren't highlighted, which is why I read it the way I read it. So they're highlighted like yellow or blue.
Yeah.
If they're that small, and that 4 wasn't. So that's the only reason why I interpreted it that way.
Thank you.
No worries.
Sarah?
One thing I was just noticing that some of the ag classes, the enrollment's pretty low. I'd like to see those beefed up if possible. I don't know if our ag enrollment is low, just in general. Some of those classes seemed on the lower end, unless it's a similar thing to what we just talked about with Mr. Covino's classes.
That is not. It's when they get to, especially some of the upper class ones, the junior senior ones, they branch off into the 4 areas of ag. So, you know, the mechanics, the natural resources, the plant science, the animal science. So those that pool of students, that's they came here for those particular classes. Yeah. So sometimes those ones do tend to be pretty small. Like if you notice, like the mechanics one, there's a lot of kids signed up for that. That's, you know, there's a class of 12, and then large equipment, there's a class of 11. But some of the other ones, they are running smaller. And it's just because that's that kid's focus area.
Any other questions or thoughts from the report that was shared with you?
I have a hard time deciphering what's happening with band and chorus. There's a lot of notes and there's a lot of independent studies, so I looked at it for quite a while. I still couldn't figure out what's happening.
I mean, it is hard, and this year, one of the things we tried to do for like a numbers thing is try and make the classes combined with band and chorus. Again, that was something that, you know, the teacher was okay with, and it allowed opportunities for kids who couldn't fit in band to take it another period. Independent study is something that's always happened with band and chorus, just because some of those kids are taking 4 or 5 AP classes and they just can't fit it in. So they do it as an independent study. You know, I'm kind of happy that she's doing that to try and grow her program and give kids the opportunities to take those music classes. And you know, the independent study is something that the art teacher does a lot too. You see that a lot in the art area. He's one of those people, he just doesn't say no to people, you know, and it's hard. But when you're looking at it, yes, it is confusing.
I think it's difficult to put our teachers in the position where they have to decide to give up a free period to take on a couple kids. I appreciate that sacrifice, but I think we're putting them in an awkward position. I think it's hard to have band and chorus meeting at the same time. People aren't singing with the band. I just don't know how that is helpful. You're running the class, but you're not having the chorus.
Yeah, so the alternative is to do them as singletons and have smaller class sizes. So it is one of those things, it's hard, you know, we want to increase class sizes for the purpose of demonstrating that, you know, we have more students in front of teachers at a given time, but then it kind of creates some of those scenarios where people are taking on independent studies or are combining classes. So if, you know, I think this is a continued conversation as a board, you know, what's more important, you know, kind of the perception of the number of students in front of our educators at all times, then we're gonna have to combine and do things like that. Or is it, we're gonna be understanding that there are gonna be some times that there's gonna be 3 or 4 based on student tracks, based on student schedules, based on specialty courses. That's a difficult one to grapple with because I understand the budget constraints, and I understand the importance in our close-knit community of that personalized learning opportunity.
Another thing that I'm trying to look closely at that high school level is the interest level. Like, we gotta get more somehow, so that's something that I've been bringing up, like maybe she needs to start offering courses of, you know, guitar, intro to guitar, like different types of courses to get the classes up, because that's why that's happening, why we're trying to combine. So, you know, I think you guys have talked to her, I wasn't able to attend a meeting, but like trying to figure out a course that also will have other students that are maybe not music kids. Like my son got offered a class, you know, rock and roll history of rock and roll, right? So it's the music teacher providing that, but just a different way to offer music interest to kids that are not traditionally want to just play an orchestra or chorus, because there is so much more to music. So I appreciate you bringing that, because that's been on for the last 2 years. I'm, you know, in particular when we're talking about cutting music in other buildings. So I just want to make sure like that's clear that we need to pump up that area up here for sure. So we're headed in that direction, right? I mean, I don't want to.
We have 2 classes we're going to be proposing.
So we'll be bringing that at the meeting in.
If I could add one more. Oh, sorry,
No, go ahead.
Another area of concern I have is with the English, the way it's been revamped. Right now, my daughter does not have any language arts for the whole semester. She has writing and reading in the second semester. And I think part of that was because Sarah had expressed concern last year that her senior wasn't getting writing when she needed it to write her senior college essay, so then they changed it to front load writing the first semester, which affects, because the English classes are now not just one grade, they're three grades combined potentially. It's thrown a bunch of other things off. She's not the only student in that situation. There's a whole bunch of kids that don't have any English. I've never seen that in my entire life. K through college, you always have a language arts class, and right now, some kids don't have one.
This semester, though.
This
They'll
semester.
have it.
They'll have it next semester doubly, but there's nothing happening right now.
Just a quick comment back to music for a sec. I think that's great that we're trying to figure out how to bolster. I was a band kid and had great experiences. But one of my concerns is, and I think part of our problem or part of our opportunity at Lyman is what's the experience that students are getting in the middle school for band and chorus. If that experience isn't, okay, I'll go with that one. That it's all a feeder program. The elementary school now feeds the middle school. That middle school is huge to feed the high school as far as a vibrant band and chorus program. And if we don't have that, if parents aren't seeing the value in the middle school for any number of reasons, they're not going to continue that. They're going to suggest to their kids to take a different track. So,
Can I chime in on that, Brent?
I have a question that's kind of correlated. Do you mind if I ask? I'm wondering if there is potentially a correlation between how the scheduling happens at the middle school for band and chorus that's causing some of the impact of students deciding to drop.
So I think we're jumping ahead just a little bit. Just try to remember that prior to last year, that band and chorus only met once a week on opposite days for 25 minutes at the end of the day, interrupted by announcements and a lot of other things. And that was all that they got. And so this last year was the very first year that they were given a solid 35 to 38 minutes of instruction, both in band and chorus, on an every other day basis. So yeah, we've got some work to do in terms of hyping up that program and retention 5 through 8. Not gonna disagree with you at all in that. But in a small district like this, we point out individual teachers when we talk about these programs. That individual in that environment that I walked into also as a new administrator was set up to fail. And so we've tried to create an environment where that program can thrive, but that's going to take time before it gets up here to the high school level.
And band and chorus happens during which period?
During the
It's
WIN.
during WIN, right? So I think, though I completely understand the shift, I'm wondering if because it happens during WIN, that there's just automatically the kids that need WIN can't go every other day to band, for example, or can't join chorus. I just wonder how it's being scheduled is impacting it. And I don't have a solution, please. I have no idea. But one of my kids decided to stay, but then the other was like, this is too much, or so it's just.
Yeah, prioritization during WIN is I guess it's on one hand it's a good problem to have because it means that there are multiple options for how you're using that period. But in general, it goes, if we have a special education student who needs to receive their services related to the goals on their IEP, that's level 1. Level 2 is health. it's very important that our students get health education, and it's offered for 1 quarter. So yeah, a student who is in band or chorus for 1 quarter will be pulled out for health and have to get put back in there. But I haven't come up with a better place for that. Certainly not with the kids sitting on the floor for 10 minutes prior to starting PE. That's not a health class. So there's still some things to work out.
It's challenging for sure, yeah. Other thoughts, questions?
Thank you for those thoughts and questions, and administrators, as always, thank you for being agile and answering questions on the spot. And, you know, we always do really take your feedback to heart, and we're continuing to grow all of our programs, but being mindful of what those class sizes and offerings look like. So the last thing on the superintendent report is just the 26-27 budget. Rachel gave a very detailed notes from our subcommittee. What I had to share is very similar. Just wanted to remind the full board that the process of budget development starts very early on in the school year. Martha distributed budget documents to our administrative team in September. They have then disseminated that information to their teachers, their team leaders, department heads. They're all working diligently to create their school-based budget books. Will be delivered to Martha and I on October 29th. The following weeks, Martha and I will look through those books and work to create a district overview. We'll then have individual meetings with each of the building's administrators to ask questions, to probe a little deeper, potentially push back on budget requests. We will be having subcommittee meetings in November and December here on the board meeting nights. We did talk about in the subcommittee meeting about having one that would be off of a board meeting night in December, so we'll have 2 of those subcommittee meetings. All of that is in preparation of the presentation to the Board of Education, where you would then adopt the superintendent's budget. Capital budgets would be due to the Board of Finance on January 23rd. The operating budget is due to the Board of Finance on February 23rd, and will be reviewed at a March 3rd meeting for the Board of Finance. All right, so a lot of work to do yet, but the building of the budget is underway. All right, Martha's here for the finance report. Any questions for Martha on the 25-26 budget or non-lapsing account? Early on in the fiscal year, some things I did point out also at the finance subcommittee. The legal line, you'll see a pretty significant dent will be put into that, which will come out in the next report due to working through negotiations with the teachers union. We do have some potential situations with tuition and transportation for some students who may need some services out of our district that you can see in the next report. But as of this month, we are a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of the amount remaining from the operating.
Any questions? Okay. Any questions on non-lapsing? Any questions at all?
All right.
It's a quiet group right
Yeah,
now.
perfect.
Thank you again for the grant list.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Moving on to action items. Action item number 1, act on letter of resignation. Is there a motion?
I second.
Motion by Danelle, seconded by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. So it's not unanimous because one of us has stepped out of the room, so I think we just need to make note that Nicole stepped out of the
Yep.
room. Action item number 2.
So Governor Lamont had previously announced that minimum wage would increase to $16.94 on January 1st. So I'm bringing this to the board to be proactive rather than reactive as that date approaches. We do have several substitute positions that are below that rate. Our substitute custodian, secretary, paraeducator, and teacher without a bachelor's degree all would need to be increased to that minimum threshold of 1694. I think this is something at the very least we need to do, obviously, to be in line with legislation, but I do think it's a conversation with the board in the near future about what do we want to potentially increase those beyond minimum wage. We have a difficult time getting substitutes. We had in years past made some headway to get ahead of the curve, but we did not year over year increase, and now we're in a similar predicament to what we were a few years back, where we are paying these substitutes minimum wage. I can do an analysis of the local surrounding districts if the board would like, but I think it is something we will have to revisit in the future. But for tonight, the chart that was shared with you will move the substitute custodian, substitute secretary, substitute paraeducator, and substitute teacher without a bachelor's degree to the $16.94 an hour.
Is there a motion to approve the substitute rate change due to minimum wage increase? Motion by Brian.
Yeah.
Second.
Second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Action item number 3 is to act on to approve spending from the non-lapsing fund for the purpose of fixing the heat in the air handler at LMS. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the air handler at LMS to be replaced at the amount of, you know, me specific?
Yes, please. Or say up to.
Up to $8,407 for the 10-day build, using non-lapsing.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by Sarah. Any discussion?
I feel like John has something to say.
No? Patiently waiting. Patiently waiting.
No questions.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Next up is anticipated executive session for the purpose of reviewing the tentative agreement with the Lebanon Education Association. Is there a motion?
Motion to move into executive session for the purpose of reviewing tentative agreement with the Lebanon Education Association and inviting the superintendent.
Second.